everybody. You're getting a solo vlog from me again this week because John has a show festival all weekend and he's out being funny for other people. So I'm going to actually sit around and tell some stories this week because that's what's up. Somebody actually sent in, apparently the 1 week we skipped a vlog because we were really busy and we didn't say anything. We got like 5 more emails from you guys that were all like, oh, I noticed you haven't done a vlog in a while. Are you guys okay? It was just 1 week. We're fine. We're going to be doing more vlogs, so don't even worry about it. But one suggestion that we got was somebody said that having noticed that we hadn't done a vlog recently, they wanted to pitch the vlog idea that it would be kind of like story time. Or maybe we could paraphrase a myth for everybody that maybe they hadn't heard before and then talk about what it means and how you can use it in Scion, which I thought was a really cool idea, so I'm going to do that today. And to go along with that, somebody else wrote in this week and said, since you're working on the Mayans, could you share a Maya myth? So I'm going to share a Maya myth with you guys this week. Most people haven't heard Maya myths, and that's because there aren't very many of them left. One of the problems with Maya mythology is that a lot of it we just have through images. Like the Aztecs, they didn't write down a lot of stuff, so a lot of their things are just pictorial, so if you don't know what's going on in the scene, you can't really tell. And then they did have a writing system, a very complicated one with a lot of glyphs, but the problem there is that we actually don't know how to read all the glyphs yet. We're doing better than we used to. About 50 years ago, we couldn't read any of the glyphs, and we just had no idea what they said. We're doing better now, but there are still some symbols that we haven't translated, and until we do, we can't know if they're telling us anything more about myths. So it's a bit of it's a gray area, kind of. There are a lot of myths where we know this is an important myth, but we don't know what it's about. Like, there's a lot of art where you'll see God El, as he's called in the codices. They give him letter names. God El, or Mashimon is one of his modern names. Turns up sitting on a throne, and he's got the moon goddesses in front of him, and she's holding a mirror, and then her moon bunny is over to the side, like doing some writing. We don't know what that myth is about. It seemed obvious that she is like punking him, and like she's stolen something from him, and then we don't know what she's doing, and we don't know why the rabbit is there, and we know it was an important story because we've seen it in art a lot, but we don't really know what's happening. And a lot of Maya myth is like that, where you know they were doing something, but we don't know exactly what. But the place we do know a lot about Maya myth is the Popol Vuh, which is kind of the big motherlode of myths that we have left from the Maya. It's from the Maya down in Guatemala, and and most people actually don't realize this. The Maya aren't just in Mexico; they're in southern Mexico, but then like all the way down Central America. So the Maya of Guatemala were the first ones to actually write down the Popol Vuh, which has stories that seems like they span the whole way with regional variations, but nobody really wrote it down until fairly late. And the Popol Vuh is this amazing compendium of Maya myth. And if you want to read it, you can, because it's online, it's public domain. You should be able to find it pretty much anywhere. And I'll try to link some down in the post for you guys if you want to go read it, because it's pretty cool. And I cannot tell you the whole Popol Vuh because it is huge, and it is a lot of different myths at once, and you guys would be bored. But I'm going to actually skip over all the creation of the world and the creation of mankind and all of that stuff, and I'm going to talk about the 2 most major figures for most people in Maya myth, and those are the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque. And they're really cool. Twins are a big theme in Maya mythology, which is actually interesting because twins themselves were kind of iffy a little bit in Maya culture, just because they had an idea that twins might often be one that was good and one that was bad. So there are occasional times when you'd see they maybe would kill one of the twins at birth just to make sure that nothing bad happened. Or that, you know, one twin might be feeding off of the other twin and you don't want that to happen. But there are a lot of twins in mythology. The gods don't seem to be under that same rule of twins being maybe dangerous. And the hero twins are the big superstars of the Maya pantheon. And the story of their creation starts with a different set of twins, who are their father and his brother, and their names are Hunahpu and Vukupunahpu, which means 1 and 7. You'll see a lot of names in Maya myth where it's like 1 noun, 2 noun, 3 noun. They do that a lot. And it mostly just tells you a little bit about them, like if this person's name is 1 death, you know he's a death god who's fairly important, that kind of thing. So Hunahpu and Vukupunahpu are the first twins, and they love games. They have a lot of talents and they could be doing a lot of cool stuff, but they really love playing games, so that's what they spend all their time doing. They play a lot of dice games, they play a lot of games with sticks and contests of skill, but their favorite thing to do is to play the Maya ball game. And you guys have all seen the Mesoamerican ball game. It's the crazy one with like the stone hoops, and people can't use any hands or parts of their body except for like their hips. And the sensational idea that you would use heads as balls, which most of the time they probably didn't actually do, because that would be really hard to play a game with a skull as a ball. Like, it would just not work very well. But they do it in mythology. which is where that idea comes from. So these two brothers playing ball all day, playing ball all night, completely excited about playing ball. And they are so rambunctious and full of ruckus when they play ball, and they happen to be playing ball above the roof of Xibalba, which is the underworld of my myth. And they wake up the Lords of Xibalba. And the Lords of Xibalba, one kind of are upset by all the noise going on above them. They're like, what's going on up there? Why are you guys disturbing us? So they decide to challenge them, because the Lords of Xibalba also love the ball game. So they're like, we're going to challenge them to come play the ball game, and then when they lose, we're going to kill them, and then we can all have peace and quiet again. And so they also, there's a side motive that they really want. The twins have this really neat game gear that they have for playing the ball game. Apparently it's super cool relics, and they really want it. So they're also like, and when we kill them, we can take all their stuff. So they send up their messengers to go get the twins and challenge them to this ball game. And the messengers are a bunch of owls. And you'll see that a lot through not just the Maya, but other Mesoamerican cultures, that owls are almost always associated with death, along with bats and spiders. They're the death creatures that really, like over in Aztec town, Mictlantecuhtli wears owl feathers in his crown because he's a death god. Here, God El again wears an owl in his hat because he's associated with death, and then the Lords of Xibalba use owls as messengers, which is how you know they came from the underworld. Which is very different from our European concept of the owl being like wisdom, kind of, but it's definitely always death. It's kind of usually a bad sign when you start seeing owls in Mesoamerica. So they send them up to the underworld, from the underworld, they send the owls up to find the twins and challenge them to a ball game. And the twins are, of course, A, they love ball games, so they're totally on board with that, and B, they're like, the Lords of Death can't beat us, we're awesome. So they're going to go down to the underworld and play this game. And their mother begs them not to go, because she's like, you guys are stupid, it's the underworld. And they're like, no, it's fine. So they go on down to the underworld, and the underworld is a horrible, horrible place, which they start to realize as they start getting in there. There's rivers of blood, there's rivers of pus. My favorite one is the river of scorpions they have to get across. It's just a river of scorpions. It's horrible. And they start to realize, okay, this is a pretty bad place, but they're still pretty cocky, and on top of it, they're like, we got to cross the horrible rivers and everything's fine, and let's not even be worried about it yet. The moment at which everything starts to go wrong is that they hit a crossroads. And they're like, okay, there's 4 roads into Xibalba, and they don't know which one to take. And they end up taking the black road, and that was the wrong road, and that leads them to their doom. And Maya mythology is very big on 4 corners, 4 quarters, 4 directions. Like, that's kind of how the world is divided. And when you see something happen that has multiple choices in Maya myth, it's almost always there's 4 choices. And that's the case here, and they choose the wrong one. So when they get to the palace of the death gods, they go up to greet them, and they're not getting any response. And they're kind of freaked out because they're trying to say hello, and the death gods are ignoring them. And then they realize that they've been talking to statue decoys of the death gods, and the real death gods are over the side laughing at them. And they're like, okay, you guys obviously aren't going to be any kind of a challenge to us because you are stupid and you couldn't even figure out you weren't talking to us. And they're like, okay, that's daunting, but we can still do this. And then the death gods are like, okay, we'll have a seat here at the bench, we'll have some dinner before we go do this ball game that we're probably going to beat you at. And when they sit down on the bench, they realize that the bench is actually a red hot heated stone, and it burns them really badly, and they have to leap back up. And again, the Lords of Death are laughing at them. They're like, you guys are terrible, there's no way you can survive this. And they send them off. They're like, okay, look, we're sorry, you go relax for the night, tomorrow morning we'll play ball. And they send them to the House of Darkness, and there are several houses in Xibalba. They're all pretty unpleasant, they have nasty things in them. And in this case, the House of Darkness, they send them in there, and they're like, okay, you get to rest here all night. It's an impenetrably dark house. We're going to give you a torch, and we're going to give each of you a cigar. All 3 of those are lit already. In the morning, you need to give us back the torches and the cigars, and they can't have been burned down in a way. So you have to keep them lit all night, because we're going to watch you. But if they're gone in the morning, you're going to lose. So obviously it's impossible, because if they keep them burning all night, they'll be gone in the morning. And they don't really know what to do. And so in the morning, the Lords of Xibalba are like, give us back our cigars and torch, and they're like, we're really sorry they burned down because we had to have them burning all night. And they're like, well, that means that you lost. So the twins are sacrificed, and they're killed, and they're buried under the ball court. So cautionary tale, don't mess around with the death gods. But the tale doesn't end there, because this was just the first set of twins, the less important twins. And so once they've killed them, the older of the 2 brothers, Hunhunapu, his head grows into a tree. And the Lords of Xibalba put the tree off limits because they're like, that's kind of obviously a magical tree. We're not sure what it's about. It looks like the fruit of it would be delicious, but we're pretty sure something weird is going on there, so nobody touch the tree. So the tree becomes off limits. But, as there always is, there's one particular goddess. Her name is Shakik, and she's a daughter of one of the Lords of Death, and she's like, well, that tree sounds like it's delicious, and I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want to eat from it. And obviously I'm a goddess, so nothing bad is going to happen, right? So she goes over there even though she's not supposed to. And the tree spits in her hand, and she's immediately impregnated with twins. And she doesn't really know about that, but when she goes home, her father's like, holy crap, you're pregnant, what happened? And she's like, what? No? And they're like, well, you gotta be executed now for having sex outside of wedlock. And she's like, I've never had sex outside of wedlock, I don't know what you're talking about. And so she's sentenced to death, because that's how it happens in Mesoamerica. Ladies don't have sex. And so she has to flee the underworld. She convinces some of the owls to help guide her out of the underworld and kind of misdirect her father so that he doesn't catch her. And she has to go up to the world of the living and live there now. And so, and she uses some red tree sap to simulate blood, so that when they take the blood back, her father is satisfied. Is like, you guys killed her, good job. It's very Snow White-esque, actually. So she heads up to the world, and she's like, okay, obviously I was impregnated by the tree. The tree was from these twins, and so I should go find their family and live with them, because I'm part of their family now. So she finds their mother, Shmukani, who's one of the original kind of two creation titans that hang out. And she's like, hey, I'm basically your daughter-in-law, and I'm carrying your grandchildren. Can I live with you? And Shmukani is like, no, I don't know who you are. That's obviously a lie. My sons never came back from the underworld. Like, I told them they wouldn't because they're stupid. You can't live here with me. And she's like, no, I really am. I promise these babies are your grandchildren. And so she says, okay, you can stay if you can harvest an entire field of corn from a single ear. That's how I'll know that you're actually from my son, because he's a super fertility god. And, she gets out there and she's like, this is a single ear of corn, I can't succeed. And she's really upset about it, but she kind of calls upon the powers of nature and fertility, and she manages to multiply the ear into a bunch of different ears. And then the twins' mother is like, okay, well, I guess you are who you say you are, so you can live with us. Congratulations. So eventually, Shakik gives birth to the two twins. And these are the trickster twins that everybody has always heard about, Hunahpu and Xbalanque. And they do a ton of stuff. I cannot even go into all the stuff they do in the Popol Vuh. They are killing monsters. They are tricking people into losing their teeth. They are hanging out, like, doing ridiculous fertility feats. They do whatever they want, basically. They're big old pimps. So, but the thing that is most important that they do is that, by chance, they happen to capture a rat that's been messing around with their fields. And the rat tells them that they haven't gotten their inheritance because they should have gotten their father's ball gear. And they're like, oh man, I would love to have my father's ball gear, right? And it turns out that their grandmother has hidden it because she doesn't want the same thing that happened to her sons to happen to her grandsons. So she's hidden the ball gear to stop them from ever playing ball, because obviously playing ball just doesn't lead to anything good, right? So they go find where she's hidden it, and they immediately start ball playing up a storm, because that's what you do when you are my god, you ball play up a storm. And it wakes up the Lords of Xibalba, and they're like, what the hell? I thought we fixed this problem like 20 years ago. So they again send up their messenger owls, and they're like, hey, we're challenging you to come down here and play ball with us because you're keeping us awake and it's not okay. And they go down there knowing, first of all, that their father died down there. They know that. They don't really know what happened, but they know he died. He went in and never came out. And they know that their grandmother doesn't want him to go, but they go not just because they want the challenge of the ball game, but also because they want to avenge their father. So they have a couple of motives to get down there into the underworld. So, but they are a lot smarter than their father was, or his brother, and so they do a lot better. They get across the rivers of grossness. They succeed at that. When they get to the paths, they, instead of like impulsively embarking down a path, they send out a scout party, which is actually a mosquito. They get a little mosquito, and they tell the mosquito, go down all the way down to the palace of the death gods, and I want you to kind of just go through and bite each one of them, and that will let me know, they'll give us enough information that we can succeed at this. So the mosquito goes through and does that. And when he bites each lord, the next lord says, oh, hey, lord's name, what's the matter? And so they then learn the names of all the different lords. So they're able to, like, perfectly politically handle the situation when they get there. And they're much more perceptive than their father and uncle were. So when they get there, they're like, oh, these are just, like, wooden statues. Where are the real death gods? So they aren't fooled by that. And when the death gods invite them to sit down, they're like, no, that looks like a hot rock that would burn us. We don't want to sit on that. And so the death gods have to resort to sending them to the houses. And then they discover that they're much wittier too, because when they send them to the House of Darkness with the torch and the cigars, they put the torch and cigars out, and then they use fireflies and red parrot feathers to make it look like the fires are still burning all night. So in the morning, the Lords of Xibalba think the fires burned all night, but they still have this torch and cigars, so they've succeeded. And during all this time, the Lords of Xibalba are starting to get kind of uncomfortable, because originally with the first set of twins, they were like, oh, well, these guys are obviously inferior to us, they can't succeed. But these people are beating all their tests, so they're like, oh gosh, it might be a little out of control, maybe we need to worry about it, and so they start stepping up their game kind of on their challenges. So they go to have the first ball game. And first of all, the twins manage to defeat their attempt to stealth murder them by being like, hey, this ball seems like it has a knife in it. And they're like, oh god, where did knife ball come from? Let's use your ball instead. So they play ball, and the two teams are pretty evenly matched. The Lords of Xibalba and the twins are not able to really defeat each other. So the twins eventually at the end of that are like, okay, we're going to have to concede defeat. We can't beat you today. And the Lords of Xibalba are like, okay, well, for our prize, we want these special flowers. We just want 4 bowls of 4 different colors of flowers. But these flowers only grow in the underworld, and we're going to have guards on them all night that will not allow them to be stolen. And then they send the twins off to spend the night in the House of Blades, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a house full of stabby swords that try to kill them. And their first act is to come in and tell the swords, no, you can't cut us. From now on, you will never cut anything except the flesh of animals. And the swords are all like, okay, I guess that's what we do now. So they survive the House of Blades, okay. But they still need these flowers. So instead they call up all the ants of the underworld, and they're like, okay, ants, we need you to sneak in and steal these flowers, like 1 petal at a time, because you're the only thing small enough that no one will notice it. So the ants do that for them. And in the morning, they hand over the flowers as the prize to the Lords of Xibalba, and the Lords of Xibalba are like, what the hell just happened, and go do horrible things to the guards that fail to stop them, and then they have to play ball again. And this goes on for a while. They start sending them to worse and worse houses, and the twins just start getting more and more magical to deal with it. They send them to the House of Cold, and the twins are just like, we made the house warm. That's what's happening. And then they send them to the House of Jaguars, and the twins are like, hey, Jaguars, here's some bones to eat. Don't touch us, and the Jaguars don't. And actually, the second twin, Spelunky, is often drawn with Jaguar attributes, and the word Balam in the middle of his name, it actually means Jaguar, so he probably has some Jaguar stuff going on anyway. And then the House of Fire, where they just wander through it, and they come out unburned on the other side, and they're like, is that the best you got, Lords of the Underworld? And the Lords of Xibalba, by this point, are really freaking out, because they're like, okay, if they're going to survive Jaguars and swords and fire, like, what else do we have to throw at these guys? So finally, the Lords of Xibalba finally succeed by putting them in the House of Bats. And the House of Bats is a horrible place, full of giant monster bats. If you guys have heard of Camazotz, the Maya bat god, this is probably where he hangs out. The bats have like blade-like snouts that rip things to shreds, and they're all hungry for blood, and it's pretty bad. So the twins have to crawl inside their blowguns to try to survive the night, so the bats can't eat them. But unfortunately, Hunahpu sticks his head out at one point to see if it's morning yet, and Camazotz rips his head off and takes it away. So he's dead. And in the morning, his twin is like, oh shit, he's dead. What do we do? And the head is taken off to the ball court, where the Lords of Xibalba celebrate their victory and are like, we're going to use this as this is going to be the ball for all of our ball games from now on. So Spelunky is a very quick thinker, though, like both of these twins are. So he quickly calls up all the other animals of the underworld and says, guys, I need your help. I got to save my brother. Bring me all your stuff. I promise I'll help you out and make sure that you get enough food to eat. So they bring him a bunch of stuff, and he fashions a new head for Hunahpu out of a squash with a lot of other stuff on it. It isn't quite finished by morning when they need it, but it's finished enough that it looks like a real head, and Hunahpu can kind of walk around. Like, basically he's a zombie with a squash head. It's weird, but they do it. And they succeed at getting him mobile enough to get down there to the ball court. And the Lords of Xibalba are like, well, we got your brother's head on a pike up there, so you guys should probably just forfeit, because I don't think you can win this game by yourself. And he's like, no, my brother's here. He's got a squash head. It's good. We're going to win. And so the Lords of Xibalba are not sure what's going on there, but they're still pretty emboldened by having at least killed one of the twins. So they're like, okay, let's do it. And they play the game with Hunahpu's head as the ball. And the twins convince a rabbit to steal the ball during the middle of the game. So the Lords of Death go running off to go get it. And in the confusion, the twins swap Hunahpu's real head for the squash. So Hunahpu has his real head back and he's restored, and then the squash is now the ball. And then when the Lords of Death come back and they kick the ball, it explodes because it's just a squash. And then the twins are like, ha, we've beaten you at the game. Suck on that. So, and then the Lords of the Underworld are again like, I just don't even know what to do with these guys. I just don't know. I'm pretty sure that's cheating, but what do you even do about it at this point? But at this point, the twins realize that they're kind of living on borrowed time. They're like, there's no way we can... I mean, we're pretty great, but we cannot survive the entire underworld trying to kill us for much longer. So they call down these two kind of seers or prophets that they know the lords of the underworld use to call upon in important times. And they're like, okay, the lords of the underworld are going to come to you and they're going to ask you the best way to kill us. And we want you to tell them that they should burn us to death with hot stones and then grind us up and throw us in the river. And make sure that they don't do anything else with their bodies. That's what we want. And so when the lords of the underworld go to the seers and they're like, help, these guys are really hard to kill, what do we do? The seers tell them what the twins told them. And they're like, okay, that's what we'll do. And the twins allow themselves to be killed. They say, you know, thanks for having us over, guys. It was really great that you let us come down here and kind of trash your underworld. You're the death gods, so I guess we're going to let you kill us now because that's what you do. And I guess that's cool with everybody. So the two twins are killed. And they're ground up into ash, and then the ash is scattered in the river. And this looks like the end, with yet another set of twins dead in Xibalba. And the Xibalban lords definitely think it's the end. They're very excited about it. But what actually happens is that the twins cause themselves to be reborn as fish. What the Popol Vuh actually says is that they're reborn as people fish. They're little fish that look like people. And then over these intervening days, they become children and then become adults again. And so they've resurrected themselves. And then they disguise themselves, because they're not done with the underworld yet. They have more shenanigans they need to pull here. So they disguise themselves, and they start wandering around Xibalba doing amazing, miraculous tricks and magic shows that really impress the local populace. Like they can set a house on fire and burn it to the ground and then restore it completely the way it was. Or they do all kinds of cool stuff, enough that the Xibalbans are so excited about it that the Lords of Death again hear about this, and they're like, oh, we want these guys to come to court and perform for us. So they invite them in, not knowing that they're the same twins that they just killed. And the twins do their crazy song and dance show. They dance for them, they sing for them, they do magic tricks for them. And their big finale trick is that they kill a bunch of animals and resurrect them. And then they kill each other and resurrect each other. And the Lords of Death are so impressed and so excited about this. They're like, oh, do me. Go ahead and kill me and then resurrect me. Super cool, right? So the twins murder both of them. And then do not resurrect them because that's not what they're here for. And then they reveal themselves to the rest of the horrified court of Xibalba, and they're like, we're the hero twins, you motherfuckers killed us, and you killed our parents, and now you're going to pay the price. We're not resurrecting your kings. They're going to stay dead, and you guys will never be powerful again. Xibalba is permanently depowered. That's what we're doing. And then the Xibalbans are all miserable, and the twins depart. They're like, we're done with you. On the way out, they stop to see their father, who's, he's dead, so he's here in the underworld. And they can't take him out. They're like, we're sorry, you're dead, so we can't bring you out of the underworld. Like, you're permanently dead. But be comforted because you will always be important as a god, and we'll make sure that people know you, and, we avenged you by killing the lords of the underworld, so you're good. And then they leave the underworld, and they ascend to the heavens, and Hunahpu becomes the sun, and Spelunky becomes the moon. And that's the end of the most major of the hero twin stories. And I cut out a lot of it. I cut out a lot of detail, and I still talked for like 15 straight minutes. So they're definitely very cool. You can see a lot of stories of them doing other stuff in the Popol Vuh, so if you are interested in them, totally read it. They're a lot of fun. We are working on the Maya Pantheon, and they will definitely be in it. So you will see hero twins, and you will be able to play a Scion of one of the hero twins if you want to. There's a lot of neat stuff within that story that relates to Mesoamerican kind of symbolism and ideas. Like the bats are a big deal in the underworld because bats are another one of the creatures that really represent death and decay, which is why you see them as major characters there. Really the only, they hit bat, mosquito, and owl, so really the only major death creature that didn't turn up in that story was a spider. There's a lot of really neat stuff with the ball game. It really shows you how important the ball game is, at least to these guys. And that's all the way down again in Guatemala. So this is not even up in Mexico, where they also play the ball game. You get a lot of stuff with sacrifice of unwilling victims here, where they threaten to sacrifice the death goddess who got pregnant, and then they sacrifice the twins. And so, unlike Aztec stuff, where sacrifice is almost always a positive thing, where it helps the world, in these cases, sacrifice is kind of a negative thing if it's done for the death gods, because the death gods suck and no one likes them. And actually, there are death gods in the pantheon proper, kind of the Maya, that are not the lords of Xibalba, but they're still unpleasant and nobody likes them. Like, they're disgusting to a level that is difficult to describe without really grossing you guys out, but they're gross. The major death god of the modern Maya, his name just means he who farts a lot. And he's always shown with like his anus and a lot of intestines. It's just gross. It's gross. They hate death. It freaks them out. So you get a lot of that sense here of kind of life struggling against death and overcoming it. But only to a certain degree, because they can't bring their father back from the dead. So life can overcome death to a certain point, but death always wins in the end, which is why it's so scary. And as far as using it in Scion, I mean, these guys are obviously great fodder for Scion stories. If you are doing anything with the Maya already, they've got to be around. If you're not doing stuff with the Maya, the Hero Twins are a great place to start because they've got easy epic stories in the Popol Vuh of the stuff that they're doing. And you don't have any of that weird stuff where you're like, I don't know what they're actually doing because we can't read the glyphs. And if you want to actually, in Mexico, their father, the dead member of the first twins, actually becomes kind of the reborn maize god. So he becomes a big deal even though he's dead, kind of in an Osiris sort of a way, so that's pretty neat. And you get a lot of the cultural really respect for quick thinking and being able to kind of pull off crazy shenanigans and fool people. Like, it's all about cleverness and cunning, which you get as you get that sometimes in Aztec myth as well, but it's a lot more pronounced in Maya myth. And you can always do some fun comparisons in Scion between the Hero Twins and then the trickster twins of Aztec mythology, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca, where, you know, whether or not they know each other, whether or not they're similar, whether or not they do stuff together can be really neat. So I have pretty much rambled about Maya mythology for like 20 minutes or something now, so I'm going to let you guys go do something else instead of listening to me. But storytime's pretty fun. I think it would be even more fun with John with me because then he would like interrupt and tell the story and be really excited and talk with his hands a lot. So we'll see if we could do this again another time. If you guys ever have particular people or myths you want to hear about, we'd love to do that. So we'll see you guys next week, and have a good day.